Thank you everyone for joining us. Today we will be hosting our application of the latest SmartSuite features webinar. I had a great time joining Jeff in the last one, so we decided to keep this a monthly routine. Just to introduce myself if you don't know me yet, my name is Emma Montgomery and I'm on the customer onboarding team. And joining me is Jeff Gonzalez. He's the senior account strategist, also enjoys building and showcasing some interesting use cases. So we're excited for what we prepared today, and I'll go ahead and let Jeff take off the initial start, and we'll go over a quick agenda. One housekeeping item, as usual, please leave all questions in the chat. In the Q&A. Feel free to comment feedback in the chat and discuss with other attendees, but if you have live questions that you'd like us to answer live, throw those in the Q&A and we will get to those after the presentation. All right, Jeff, all good.
Let's do it. Okay, cool. Before we start diving into new and existing features, just do a quick feature thought alignment so everybody understands where we're coming from. We'll cover the topics and features that we're gonna go over, and then we'll show you applied examples of each of them. Fairly straightforward here, but what I mean by feature thought alignment is just to understand basically how we think about features. And we have rudimentary elements, also known as platform primitives, there on the left-hand side. And really, these are the individual building blocks or Legos, if you will, that are in our Lego kit here at SmartSuite. So things like status fields, due dates, automation triggers, record matches conditions, or actions like update record, formula functions, sum, concat, date diff, etc. All of these are similar to Legos that you would put together to be able to create a design pattern. And so common design patterns would be when status equals complete, then go ahead and send a Slack, which includes a number of different rudimentary elements or platform primitives. Look up the assign to field and filter by the current user. If you have a table of people, a lot of different examples of design patterns. And so today we're going to cover some newer rudimentary elements that we've added to the tool. But then as we start to get towards the tail end of our presentation, we want to show existing design patterns using a number of different platform primitives that we've found to be interesting that might behave as a new feature for you. Hopefully we can inspire some folks with some of the things we put together so that we can get over to production implementations on the right-hand side where we have a functional solution and there are people in there, there's real data, and everybody is working out of SmartSuite. So as far as topics and features that we'll cover, Emma, feel free to talk about that.
Sure. So today we prepared a couple use cases. These features are great, let alone just for us to showcase, but makes more sense for us to actually show you them in action and an example of how you could use them. So I will be first discussing a content production workflow, how you can use our SmartDoc AI for content creation, and then how you can use our SmartDoc collaborative mode to review this content and work alongside your peers. Lastly, as far as content production, I will go over a design request and approval process using some of the features and design patterns that Jeff was mentioning. Then I will jump to a CRM and show you how you can integrate Google Meet and create action items from the transcript using our SmartDoc AI. Lastly, I will showcase the filtered grouping in a project management solution use case. That's a new feature that we released. And although our filtering was pretty detailed to begin with, there's some specific cases in which you may want to use multiple conjunctions. So we'll go over that. Then I'll hand it over to Jeff for the form showcase.
And yeah, this is going to be a design pattern where we use conditional logic within forms, the redirect to URL feature within forms. And then we're going to filter some linked records to simplify the selection and linking of record process through the form experience. What does that mean? I will show you towards the tail end of the presentation. All right, Emma, do you want me to allow you to share your screen on your end as we dive in?
Perfect. Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
Looks good. Good morning, Emma.
Perfect. Let's just hide this over here. All right. So if you're not familiar with SmartSuite or you're just getting started, these items here are called solutions, and they can help you manage a project, process, or workflow. So like I said today, we're going to go over 3 different use cases showcasing these particular new features. So first, I'm going to dive into the marketing plans and resources solution. So here I have a variety of different items that we call apps. So these are basically additional information that make up this particular workflow. So in this case today, we'll be working in the content, image request, and image library app. So here I have a list of all of my content by type. And this is actually how we use SmartSuite for the content production of webinars, blogs, podcasts, all the sorts. But this can be applied to any use case in any industry. This is just a design pattern that can spark how you can use assignment, how you can use simple automation to create a workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this What's New and Coming Soon production content record. And as you can see, I have a variety of fields, including the status, due date, some assigned to a single select field here, and then a variety of collapsible sections that make up parts of this content record. First thing to know is when this record was created, the type is a webinar. So automatically, it created my action items for me. So I know that every time I have a webinar content record, it's going to be assigned to me because I'm responsible for the webinar process. And it's going to create these checklist items. The 3 items, there could be a lot more, but let's keep it super simple. First, I need to create the email content. Then I need to create designs and then create social posts. Here I have pre-populated due dates for each item based off this centralized due date field. So let's say I want this to be 10 days before the webinar, 2 weeks before the webinar, you name it. I can actually isolate the exact due dates for each item, and I can assign it to myself. There may be multiple different people involved in this process, so I can assign each individual checklist item to a different person.
Emma, can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
Cool. What was the automation trigger and action for that specific flow? Was it when a record matches conditions and type, or was it when a record was updated? How did you approach that?
For this one, I did when a record is created. Mm-hmm. And there could be different conditions in which, for example, maybe as this particular content goes through a different stage, I could trigger particular action items. So maybe, for example, I could have in promotion stage. It could populate different checklist items that need to happen when the content is in promotion stage. So in this case, just a simple when a record is created and the type is webinar, it can populate it. But based on many different scenarios or conditions, you can have these checklist items populated.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. Next, we have the process of content creation. I have actually formatted an email here using my own voice. However, I'm not one to love creating social posts. SmartDoc AI can actually help me with that. So I've created this email content with details about this webinar. And I can actually use SmartDoc AI directly in the ask here. So ask AI with this little sparkle here. How do you activate SmartDoc AI? You simply hit the / command and you can say ask AI. You can also highlight existing content and select the ask AI icon there. So in this case, I've created a prompt, create social media posts to promote this webinar using this information here for the following social media platforms. So I want it to populate a post for LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit the / command here. I've actually pasted that entire prompt and the response there just to keep it super easy, but I could have just highlighted the whole thing. It's going to go ahead and take a moment here, but it's going to create sections for each post, make it super easy for me to locate, to edit, and to collaborate in. So while that's being created, here it is. So you can see I have LinkedIn, Facebook, all in super organized, collapsible columns here with the registration link, hashtags, all of that. Now let's say that I am working on this content and I need someone to review and work with me on this to make sure it's great. I can go ahead and assign Jeff in the comments here. And I can go ahead and as soon as he receives that notification, it can pull him into the SmartDoc. And we can then work collaboratively in here. So as you can see, his pill is showing and we together can work on this, edit the SmartDoc, make any changes. And as I save the SmartDoc, everything will save in real time. No changes will be lost. This is a really great feature for collaboration, for content production workflows, and when people are working on content at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and move down to this.
A lot of the feedback that we've gotten about SmartDocs is that people love it, but want it to be a little bit more interactive, the same as being maybe in a Google Doc, etc. And this is a huge jump for us. We're really excited about it. Let us know if you have any feedback for it in the chat.
Thank you. Great. Next part of the workflow would be, okay, I have my social media posts, I have an email, I need some designs to actually promote this. So in this case, I can go ahead and I'll change it back to image needed, open up the record. I have an image request section here. So here I'm going to indicate what exactly do I want this design to be made up of. I could create more additional information, but for now, I want the host to be John Derbyshire, and I want the date to display as this. Our designers know, and the information about the type of content will be carried over, so they know the standard webinar design. But when I do create this image request, information about it, such as the type of design, the information that needs to be included, and action items will actually be populated. So I'm going to go ahead and request this design here by selecting images needed. This is a simple yes or no toggle field. Could have had a status field, but I like this. It's super simple. You can just assign this and save it. Now I can go into let's move this down here, go into my image requests, and in just a second, I will see the requested solution. So let's move this here. Content. Sure, I toggled it. There we go. So here we have the what's new and coming soon requested design. What exactly happened here when it moved over? The designer was assigned. The type was moved over to webinar. So the designer knows what asset they're creating. All of the requirements and design notes is populated in the section. And based on the type of content or image request, it's populated the items that are necessary. So for in this case, we need to create a thumbnail, to create marketing site image, and create a YouTube cover. The designer could have also been assigned here, but the overall record is the project, so I didn't see a need there. So next, the designer would go ahead and upload the image into this particular record. It'll be displayed there. And then they can say, okay, I want this to be ready for review to the requested by. So in this case, if I save this record here, I will then be sent an email. Not going to open my actual Gmail account, but I should have received an email now that with a link to the record, with an attachment that I can view directly out of my email, and I can go into the actual record. It will take me right here. Look at the content here if necessary. There are two scenarios in this case. Maybe there are updates that need to be needed. So I can go ahead and use the comment section to let them know what needs to be changed by mentioning the designer and assigning them an actual follow-up and a change. I can also add to the requirements here, lots of options on how to communicate that this needs changes. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just approve this image. It's exactly how I wanted it. It looks great. So I can go ahead and save. In this Kanban view here, you've seen that it just moved right over. This is a drag and drop feature. Two things happen in this case. First, this is an asset image that I want to store in my image library. Whether it's a sales resource and it's been approved, you want to keep that in a centralized location without having to create the actual data again. I can notice in my image library here, it's created that what's new. This was from a test earlier, but this is the new record that I just went ahead and triggered. As you can see, all the information about the category, this is a custom type image, and the status is current because it's been approved and it's an active resource. One other thing happened, and that is in the actual content record. Since the image has been fully approved and it's ready to be published, you can see in the designs that final solution or that final image has actually been populated here. And that I can go into a little bit more, but I simply used a find record action to find the content name that matches with that image request name, and it will actually update that image field automatically for me. Any questions on that, Jeff?
I want you to just show that automation setup. I think it's really cool, but no questions from me. But also no questions in the Q&A either. Oh,
okay.
Look at that timing. Bill French is asking in the chat if you can make changes to, okay. Bill asked, taking it back to the AI prompts in SmartDoc, can you modify it and rerun it? I often create flawed prompts and I need to tune them and get what I want.
Exactly. So let's say, thank you for your question. Let's say this Facebook one seems a little long. I can actually go in here and say, I want to make this shorter. I want to improve the clarity, fix language, generate action items, which I'm going to show in just a second. But in this case, maybe I just want to make this shorter. You can go ahead and edit that existing content to make it to my liking. I could use a custom prompt as well, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. But in this case, it's super easy to edit existing content just by highlighting that text and then going into the Ask AI. So always a custom prompt, but you always have options here that are standardized here. All right.
Next question for you, Emma. Can automation trigger AI feature in SmartDoc? For example, if you fill in field A with information, automation writes a summary for it in field B, which I don't believe we can do yet, unless you know something I don't, which usually happens.
No, we can't do that quite yet, but I definitely see us going in that direction. You can also use particular integrations. So in this case, I'll showcase in just a second how you could use a different AI software that will populate data in here. So for example, like a meeting AI assistant that joins your meetings, based on action items, meeting summaries, it can actually populate data inside SmartSuite. But as of now, you can't through an automation. However, there is a way to actually reference other fields. And I'm going to go ahead, I can show you really quickly what that would do. I'll go ahead and jump to the next use case because I actually will show you there. All right, so here I have a CRM solution. I have my list of accounts, contacts that are linked to those accounts. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and look into the Meetings app. I have used a Google Meet integration. You can use Zapier or Make.com. But every time I create a meeting, it creates a record in here based on who was invited via email. It's going to go ahead and automatically link the contact so I know. And it could also have a meeting type based on description or title. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and look into an onboarding call. Here's the contact. And any information can be pulled into SmartSuite from that record. So in this case, I have a lookup of the account. If I need to use it in an auto-generated field, or in any part of this workflow. Now, if we go into the meeting transcription, the integration actually pulled the meeting transcription into this transcription record. Now, if you don't want to use a purchase a meeting AI solution, you can actually just do this by using Google Meet integration in our SmartDoc AI. So if I open up this meeting transcription, now here I want to create some action items. So it's a pretty long, I went ahead and did this already, but I'm going to go ahead and just do this again. So if we go in here, again, hit the / command, and I'm going to ask AI and say, create action items from this meeting transcript, and paste it in there. It's going to take a moment. So this is a really long call that I had, and it's super easy to just create this here, and I know exactly what needs to be done. I can also create a call summary, which sometimes is nice. If I want to know the general nature of the call, if I need to know what's important about the call, what the particular customer was asking for, this can be used in a variety of different use cases. Whether it's an internal meeting, you need to know what exactly needs to be done after it, or if it's a customer call, you can know what next steps you need to make.
That is so cool. Emma, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to put you on the spot a million times here, but this one's not from me. It's from Marie. Is it possible to create a reminder from the SmartDoc?
You can actually, what I would recommend doing is mentioning yourself, because when you're assigned, it'll actually populate in your notification center that you've been mentioned. I think that could be the best option for you, that these action items, but a really good way to populate action items could be in the form of a checklist field. We have many different options to include in the SmartDoc, but I think what you may be looking for is the @mention, because it will send them a notification and it will show up there.
Thanks for that.
Okay, so next, I'm going to show one more thing in the project management solution. So here we have, we'll go back to this one. Here we have projects, tasks, and then some additional apps here. Today we're going to look into the task app, and I'm going to demonstrate a scenario in which filter grouping could be useful. So what it allows you to do is combined and/or conjunctions. So previously you could have where this condition is met and this condition is met, or you could have where this condition is met or this condition is met. There may be some scenarios in which you want to combine an and or an or. How can I do this? I'm going to go ahead and show you a report I created. The scenario is here that I want to see all of the projects that are assigned to Jeff or myself. I need them to be either critical, or if they're customer related, they also need to be displayed in this view. So even if it's the priority of a customer related project or assignment or task is not critical, I always prioritize customers in this case, so I need it to display in here. So what would that look like? Firstly, I want the due date to be on or before today. So I know that anything that's been overdue, I need to jump to right away. Next, I need to make sure that the status is not complete, so it's not showing things that already have been done. The last is where I use this filter grouping. So I also want these two conditions to be met, but they are using the or conjunction. So in this case, I want the priority to always be critical to show here. But if the type is customer related, regardless of the priority, I always want it to display in this view. So that's just one use case of how you could use the filter grouping in a particular view to combine the and the or together.
So Emma, we've got one more question regarding AI. Naturally, everybody's talking about AI. I'm happy we get to talk about it here at SmartSuite. But is there a character limit on the AI prompts? I don't actually know the answer to that one. I don't believe so.
I think it's just based on OpenAI. I know there's a limit on the character count there, so I believe it would just follow that limit. If we can make a note of who asked that, and I can follow up with them, but I believe it's a limit, and it's just how OpenAI treats that limit.
This is from Tim over at Enablance. I went ahead and linked our Help Center guide regarding SmartSuite AI Assistant in the SmartDoc. Your workspace does have up to 200 free requests. After that, you'll need to use your own API AI or Open AI API key to continue using it. But other than that, we haven't listed any sort of character limits, which we can do some digging on that and get some answers for you. Thanks for the question.
Sure. So like Jeff was saying, you can see right off the bat, you have 200 free requests. So I've only used 11 here. But once you meet that, you'll have to add your OpenAI key into your workspace settings there. Last thing I want to show before Jeff continues with his form submission is a common ask when you're trying to think about the structure of your solution. So in this case, I seamlessly went through each app here, and the whole idea is the connection of these different apps, and I did that through a linked record. If those linked record connections did not exist, it wouldn't be possible to move over the information to connect it back. And how I can visualize that from a bird's eye view and to understand that my relationships are in fact correct is using a data schema widget. So in this case, I can basically check to make sure my relationships are existent and are correct to ensure that all the information is linked in the right way. So in this case, if I'm ensuring that's how I would like the connection to occur, I can see that the image library is linked to the image requests. Definitely want that. My link to my image requests are linked to the plan, the webinar plan, and my content is linked to the particular marketing plan. And my content, of course, is linked to the image requests. This is a very simple way of looking at it, but at least it provides a guide to make sure your relationships are in fact there. And then when you go to use automations, it makes it super simple to ensure that everything is fully connected. All right, Jeff, you're up now.
I am up, but we got one good question that I feel like we might need some clarification on before being able to answer extremely well. But does SmartSuite integrate with email? And the answer is yes, but in a couple of different ways. And so if you want to throw into the chat, anonymous attendee, what you're looking for out of that integration, in the meantime, we can show you a couple of ways that we currently allow you to do so. Emma, would you mind sharing your screen again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So as far as options go, we have the communication center. So if you go into the commenting of any record, you go into the settings here, you can toggle this email feature, and it will provide a tab here for you to select. You can create email templates here. And what this allows you to do is to create emails that are sent out from SmartSuite. Anytime that particular email is responded to, it'll come back into this record. So right now it's from an alias, your SmartSuite email-inbox. I know it's not necessarily ideal, but you could actually CC yourself for now. Your domain will soon be connected. That's a feature that we're working on.
We're working on the integration to happen with Gmail users first, and then eventually Outlook.
Yes. An option now for using email would be through automation. So if I go in here, I've actually created one for when the design is ready for review. So this is the SmartDoc, or sorry, the SmartSuite email coming from SmartSuite, but I do have the option to use the Google Gmail or the Outlook email integration. So how I would do this, I just select that integration there, and I can actually connect using my Google Gmail credentials. So you can add, if you have multiple Gmail accounts, you can add multiple credentials here, and it could be sent from that Gmail or Outlook email.
Awesome. And when you toggle that email option on, does it turn it on? Do you have to do it for every single record, or does it actually do it system wide?
It will do it by user. So if I go in here, so basically as a user, you have to go in, and so you could be a solution manager and turn it on. If this is your own solution, you would just go in yourself and toggle it on. I believe it's by the actual person who's using it. They have to themselves turn it on. But once you turn it on in one record, it'll apply to all the records across your workspace.
Perfect. And we don't have a limit on emails at this point. It would be the limit on automation runs or actions.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gmail integration fixed now as far as integrating Gmail for an automation action. The answer is yes, but I'm not exactly sure what issue you were experiencing in the past, Melanie. Cool. So time to talk about form submissions?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay, so this is an example scenario. It might not exactly look like full production implementation of this form workflow, but I hope the design pattern serves as some sort of inspiration. I'll explain it first because there's a lot to it. There's a lot that's happening within this design pattern, but essentially, if many people have long forms that they have to fill out, requires folks to enter a lot of information at once, breaking the forms up into separate ones and making sure that there's a relationship between them allows for just a cleaner user experience. And typically, people have a hard time getting stakeholders to actually go in and use forms the way that they should be. And so this just supports that, right? Where you're not giving them a load of information at one time, but breaking it up makes it a little bit easier to digest. So we have 5 separate forms that all flow together in this example. It starts with one general information form, which is going to live here in the project requests app, where we'll ask for general information about the project request. But typically, these project request forms, in my experience, have been extremely long. We work with another company that has a grant request approval form workflow, and it's going to consist of 4 different forms now, but at first it was potentially 4 5-page long form broken up into sections, which again works. And we do have the ability to allow resuming partial submissions. So essentially, when you turn this on and that user on the same exact device accesses the same form, they can go back and resume from the place that they were in when they closed that form out. But in this flow, like I said, we're going to have a number of different forms that we're going to go through. And so we're using a linked record to be able to tie these project details to the project request form record to be able to relate all of them together. We have different types of forms here. Like I said, there are 5 of them in total. So the project request general information, we have a staffing form, budget form, external resources, and tech, which allow you to populate all of this information. And since we have all of it existing over on one end and a relationship between the records, you can actually just look up all the information from project details after they've submitted all 4 of the forms on that end to be able to, in project requests, show the entire bit of information without having to keep somebody in just one form or having multiple records represented over here on the project request flow. After the count of detail forms linked to the general project request hits 4, so once all 4 of these have been submitted, it's automatically going to move the status from in process to ready for review. Our default value here for status is in process. So the moment somebody submits a new request form, I have this actually filtered down so that it's only going to show me records and project requests within the form where the status is equal to in process. And so if I actually show this live, it might make a little bit more sense. We'll submit example project for the webinar. My name is Jeff at SmartSuite.com in case anybody has any questions for me after the presentation today. I'm going to say this is for sales. It is absolutely urgent. And here is the description. Oh, I have to give my last name. Perfect. I'll go ahead and submit that. And so it actually redirects us to the very next form. Important to highlight how and why it's doing this. It's actually a setting within my form, initial form, that redirects me to a URL. So you can have it send obviously to any URL, but in this case, I'm actually having it send to our staffing form, which is going to happen next within the flow, right? And it chains all the way down to get to the point where I'm filling out all 5 of the forms back to back to back. One other thing to note here is I have an automation that goes off as soon as that project request general information form is submitted. What does it do? It updates the record to make me the reviewer because I'm the standard project request reviewer, but then it also sends an email to the person who just submitted that form. And it sends an overview of required forms, project request. Hi, submitter name. Thanks for submitting the project request, and it sends the name of the project that they submitted. And it actually sends them a link to all of the different forms that they need to submit, just in case they actually step away for a sandwich, maybe during the workflow of all 4 forms of details, and they can come back and immediately resume where they left off, even if the tab was potentially closed. Let me move my face here on Zoom so I can exit out of that. Perfect. Okay, so where were we? Let's get back into the form flow. So we're going to pick staffing here. I've actually limited the selection that's available to that form. So that way I have them choosing which type of form it is to populate the value, but they only have the option that I have chosen. So limit selection to specific options. I'm going to edit those options, and I'm only going to turn on for the staffing form the ability for them to select staffing. And we're going to make that a required field as well. It's an extra step for the person submitting the form, but because it looks so short here, it's not necessarily a blocker to actually completing it. And then we also have some conditional logic within the form that includes additional fields only when conditions are met. So in project request staffing, I'll show you that one right now. We see that field conditions have been configured here. It's only going to show this field when they need a project manager and they have selected, yes, I need a project manager. That, yes, I need a solutions architect. I only need about 10 hours of project manager work, and solutions architect, the solution complexity that we need them to build is moderate. Awesome. Next portion of the flow. This is the budget example for the project webinar. And this is the linked record field type. And it's only, again, I know I went over this from the beginning. I think this is really important though. It's only showing me options here within project requests where their status is in process. Reason that I've done that is oftentimes you're not getting a ton of requests coming in and you want to be able to link records to each other, right? This allows you to do that without showing every other request that's come in the queue. Makes it really simple as somebody's going through this flow. Is budget required? Amount requested. Let's say I need 60 grand to finish this, and then the budget explanation because I need it. Perfect. We'll go ahead and submit that. External resources. Need more resources. Need them. We'll submit that. And then for tech, this is the project. Tools required. No, I don't need any technology. If I did, it would populate the rest of these fields. And again, this isn't necessarily exactly the flow that I would use this design pattern for. This is just a common example of really long forms that come in. And if you have a really long form on your end and you're trying to figure out how in the world can I make this a cleaner experience, this can do exactly that. And so now we see that our count has gotten to 4. It just adjusted our status from in process to ready for review. And we now have all 4 of our detail records for example project for the webinar, giving us that information. Hope this is valuable. There was a lot to that. And if anybody has any questions or had a hard time understanding that, I know I went through it somewhat quickly. Feel free to throw it in the Q&A. And let's make sure that you understand exactly what I did there. What are we looking at, Emma? Do we have questions coming in?
We did have questions about conditional logic, but you did jump in there, so I think if you could maybe just show how you can create a conditional section, that would be good.
Let's do it. So I created the sections here with our form elements, and within this section, you can show or hide the section when certain conditions are met. I did that on an individual field basis right here when show field only when conditions are met. But yeah, again, you can have those populate for entire sections. The reason why we have this section block is a lot of folks will have maybe 5 fields that populate when one field's condition is met. You have to go in there manually and adjust all 5 of the fields to show, and you have to click and click. And so this is really just a way of reducing the number of clicks when going through your building process. I hope it makes sense, but I was really excited about this one.
Jeff, do you mind scrolling up to the top of the form? So someone's asking about white labeling the form. So in this case, you can upload your own logo at the very top, and it's commonly seen to have forms embedded on websites. So if you go ahead and go into the form as shared, you can just see what it would look like. You can go ahead and just show the link.
No. Oops.
Or maybe we could just put it on a dashboard just so they can understand what the embed could look like.
I just tried to put an embed code in as a URL. That's
okay.
Fun. Okay, let's go custom code widget in other. Embed HTML.
Perfect. So there's no branding there. If you scroll down to the bottom, the very bottom, the only thing you'll see there is powered by SmartSuite, super small. But you can add your own logo to it, and that way it would feel more like a custom form.
Perfect.
We have a question here. Can I set it up so the respondent is emailed automatic reminders to complete the form?
Yeah, so that was something that I wanted to implement for this, but I also didn't want to over engineer something for example's sake. But let's say in this example scenario, the record matches conditions within project requests and the status is equal to in process, and it was first created, let's say, on or before 2 days ago. Let's say today is on or before. I'm trying to thumb through the logic here, but essentially what we would build would be when it was first created, and let's say it's been 2 days since the general information form was submitted, we want to go ahead and add an action. What we want to do is we want to send an email, and because in the form of the general information form, they gave us their email address, we can have it just dynamically pull that email address. Hey, this is a reminder to finish your sections. And then you can have this body of text in the message include the links that I had laid out earlier. in the initial email.
Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions? Please feel free to put them in the Q&A and we can continue answering them.
Thanks, Jim. Love these comments, y'all. And our dev team does deserve high praise. They work very hard, and you can tell by how often we're shipping new creative features to the platform. Yeah, it's a very thoughtful group of folks. So appreciate the praise. Next question from Deshauna: will CAPTCHA be added to forms? At this point, I haven't heard anybody asking for that, but I like the thought. Have you had that request before, Emma?
I have not.
Thanks for asking, though, Deshauna. Let me actually throw this into the chat. If you have specific features that are absolute must-haves, be sure to go into Canny, our SmartSuite Canny, and submit that feedback so that we can understand what you need from us. Do you have a link to Canny by chance? Oh, SmartSuite feedback. Here we go.
Okay, yes. So it looks like there's already a request for this that Brian sent in. So feel free to upvote it. It's really helpful if you include your use case, why you find this feature valuable. That really helps us make decisions on these.
Thanks for hopping in, Brian. Really appreciate that. Brian is the man who is in 3 places at one time, does an amazing job for us. If you've ever had a conversation with Brian in chat, or Emma does a great job as well, be sure to say hi. Let us know you were here in the webinar today.
Okay, question for you, Jeff. Tips on bringing data from Airtable to SmartSuite?
Yes, numerous. In the future, I feel like we might have said this too many times, but we have a feature coming. We do have a feature coming that will essentially be an importer button directly from Airtable to allow an entire base of data to come into a SmartSuite solution. As of right now, some tips that I have, because I go through this flow quite a bit personally for customers, is I would create a view in every single table that would allow you a view that represents exactly what you want to bring over, because typically one advantage to transitioning from Airtable to SmartSuite is you clean up all those fields that you made one time for one report that you don't need anymore. So like I said, create view, export as CSV, bring them in. And when you're using the importer tool within SmartSuite, you can actually create all the fields and tell the importer exactly what field type you want for each additional new field within your Airtable. And then from there, if there is a field that's a linked record field type, you can just actually import it as a text field. And then when you go into your app after you've imported the data, you can create a new linked record field type, and then you can highlight the entire field column, Control C to copy, and then Control V into the linked record field type once you've actually created and imported the other table on the other end, so that it'll pick up on the same title field or primary field that Airtable calls them. Excuse me. A lot of little nuances to it, but it really just consists of creating those views in Airtable, exporting the CSVs, and importing them into SmartSuite one by one. Maybe an over answer, but I've done it so many times that it's a question I've gotten quite a bit.
So Robert is asking about, can a SmartSuite form be linked or include a payment form? Similar to what Jeff was showing today, you could definitely have a redirect, and I think that could be the best option there. So as long as that payment form is a link, you could just have, once that form is submitted, it will redirect them to then pay. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree. There might be something built out that integrates a bit better than that, but I think that that would make the most sense if you're looking to keep it simple.
Suggestions on where to start learning the basics. Yes, so there's several options here, and I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen so you know where all the resources are available. So on your home page, there's a variety of different resources. So first off being our how-to videos. So I'll actually take you to our YouTube channel. There's many different videos, including if you go into playlists, you can actually see some of the getting started videos. So this is an actual playlist of what you need to help you get started. We go back to the homepage here, we have a help center that has many help documentation articles with pictures and explanations and videos on how to get started on particular features. If you're really looking to dive into the features and how to use each and every one of them, you can actually visit our academy, which is free to anyone who wants to participate in these courses. You can go into view courses here, and there's a variety of different types of courses and different levels. You can pick and choose what you want to look at. They're very short videos, but we have videos on each and every feature, and it can really help you understand the different features and basic fundamentals. Of course, our recorded webinars. Another thing here would be the template gallery. So if you're looking to see a particular use case in action, you can download any of our pre-configured templates for each and almost every single industry you can imagine. You can download those. There's demo data that helps you see what your use case could look like. And then if you would like to join, we have our daily office hours where you can ask questions live to a SmartSuite expert. If you want to join Monday or Tuesday, I'll be on there. You can register here from the homepage, attend any session. You can just jump in, listen to other people, learn how they're using SmartSuite, or of course, ask any questions that you have. And then another resource we have here is support. So you can just, if you have any questions as you're getting started, you can go ahead and select this message icon here and send us a message. I may pick it up, and here you can chat with an onboarding specialist and we can help you answer any questions as you're exploring the platform. But there's many different resources found on the homepage. Last, you can go into the community and ask direct questions, because not only is the internal team there, but partners are there that you could go into the community here and potentially go into general questions, and then you can ask anything. And likely people will be surprised. They'll send videos back, they'll explain it to you. It's a really, really great community.
In terms of design pattern inspiration, a lot of folks will actually share and show off different things that they've implemented in SmartSuite within our community, and I've found it to be super valuable. I've actually gotten some inspiration for basically a customer advice from within our community. So if you've built something or you're curious about what others are building, the community is an awesome place to be able to share and learn.
Yes. All right.
What do you think, Emma? 2 minutes from the hour? Think we're gonna get any more questions, or are we gonna wrap it up?
I think.
So Eduardo, there are going to be some updates to resource allocation and workload reports. We'll hold off on going into detail, but we have some really cool features related to exactly that are in the pipeline set for before. I don't want to spoil any surprises, and I think we've taken a really unique and creative approach to that. I'll let John Darbyshire share some of that information when relevant. It's in development though. So thanks for the question.
Yes, this recording, just for you, Mary, I'll make sure it's on YouTube as soon as possible. So I'll work on getting the recording up soon, and I can send you a message when it is up. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. This was really fun today. Thanks for keeping it interactive, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Appreciate all of you. Thanks.